Hello, everyone. Ben Wheeler here. Just making sure everything's working, enjoying my time on Mother's Day. It's one of those days. You're ready for the weekend to end. You want to go back to scrubbing a gym down from the sweat of all those weightlifting bros. And it's such an important job. Don't even know. And why do you do it? What keeps you going these days? Oh, I'll tell you. Mothers. Not really. You do it for you because you don't want to be a burden on society or anything like that. It's it's you gotta work to live, even if even if it's not something you want to do. Weirdly, I enjoy working at the gym while I'm there, but I have to go to bed at like 7 so that I have a decent amount of time to sleep because I have to be there at 4 a.m. to open up and all that jazz. But I'll be promoted soon, so I don't care. It's Mother's Day, and I thought it'd be nice to talk about mothers for a while because it's thematically appropriate. And when I'm done talking about mothers, I will talk about uh, Twitter mobs and some another person who decided that they just couldn't handle a Twitter mob because they decided to, I don't know, have an opinion. I guess it's uh, it's one of those things, with Alexa, with sickness and science fiction, with the new baby for the royal family. Where is that article I wrote? I read, not wrote. Anyway, so basically, it's like this: top tier mothers. Well, there's plenty. Uh, Even though motherhood is basically a death sentence for most protagonists, there's quite a few mothers running around that have a decent positive effect on their kids. Uh, let's see here. I'm just gonna go through a bunch of John C. Wright ones because why not? He's got a shelf dedicated to him, so he's gonna have to take the fire. What? Just me today. Just me. Ben. Toddle. Anyway, I've invited others. It's like there's always an open invitation to people to come on this thing, but they have to want to come on. I'm not going to bully them too hard. I do bully people, probably more than I should, but this is like 10 p.m. for me. Oh, it's all right. Bar One Studios. I just Sundays are always a sluggish day for me, and I just need to break myself of that. But mothers in science fiction and fantasy, despite the fact that yes, they tend to have an alarming death rate along with fathers. For any good protagonist, I'll start by going over some of my favorite, and the number one is probably Montrose's hard as nails mother, who might have, you know, allegedly, she was in the same room as, murdered the man who killed her husband, and then beat her psyche into him so hard that he never forgot her. till his last moment. Then we have, it's quite interesting actually, because she's fairly abrasive, but she's able to keep Montrose on the straight and narrow enough that he has it. Bar One Studio says, me and a buddy used to run a panel entitled Your Mom's Dead and Your Dad's Run Off, Family and Anime. That's basically Brock from Pokemon's backstory. Uh, Ash's dad, I can never remember what happened to him. I assume he ran off. Misty's parents are just not there. Um, I was running through a whole bunch of stuff. It's like dead, 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 gone, gone, never mentioned, run off. Um, yeah, like parental abandonment is a thing. And the weird thing is, I have no parental abandonment, which is funny. There's also from John C. Wright as well, from Swan Knight's son, Igraine of the Reeds, who is, um, what's his name? Gil's riddle spouting mother, who would rather see him die with honor than most other things. Let's see here. Power One C, as we refer to the parental yoke. Basically, moms would be too much of an organizing force to allow YA protagonists to actually have their adventures, and that's true. That's true. In The Magician's Nephew, the mother is too sick to interfere with Diggory, and of course must be given the healing apple from Aslan to not be sick anymore. I don't know why when I've been talking, I've been yawning. It's the weirdest thing. And then we have Jadis the White Witch in contrast to her, interestingly enough, who has no kids and a lot of dead people surrounding her. The dad's been missing, and note how often it's job related would also ring true, being a familiar situation throughout history. That is a true statement. You got to get that cheddar somehow. It's yeah, got to get that money. Got to support your family. Got to support your kids. But then, of course, that's exactly when the Dark Lord's going to roll through the nice village, and you, being a traveling merchant, have just gone away to, town, and all you see is the black smoke. Then you go on a vengeful whirlwind adventure, assuming your kids are dead. I'd actually like to see one with from the perspective of um, perspective. Wait, there we go. Perspective of the kids there, just because I think, I mean, the adult, because it's like, wait a minute, you're alive all this time. Yeah, Dad, you left me to die in the slave pits of whatever. No, son, I was going for revenge. I thought you were dead. um, let's see, the mother in Monster Hunter International is there, but she's not really so much of an effect as the father is. Then we have, let's see here. Ooh, there we go. Oh my goodness. There's like three really important mothers in John C. Wright's work. There's Montrose's mother, Grain of the Reeds, and from the Uttermost Tower, versus the Tower of Babel. The main guy's adoptive mother is stuck with a beast watching over her. Not over her, but over her hideaway, and not letting anyone near. Evil mothers. But she's apparently watching over them, which is nice, I bet. Um, and then we have evil mothers. There's girl geniuses Lucretia Mungfish, mother of Agatha Heterodyne, There's, let's see here, Vathek's mother from the story of the same name. Um, then we have, ooh, what's another good evil mother? Ah, yes, Vilfort's wife, who is the mother of that one brat, who tries to poison Vilfort's child from the Count of Monte Cristo, from his first marriage, so that her son can inherit everything. And she is like, it's interesting if you compare like Lucrezia Muddenfish, who's basically a force of nature, and mind controlling your daughter's body and all kinds of things like that, to what was the second one? Vathek's mother, who is also controlling, but doesn't actually care what her son does, provided it furthers her goals. And then you have like weak evil, um, with Vilfort's second wife. It's quite interesting, the grades you can go down from it, because you can have like your evil stepmother all you want. It's a classic for a reason. Certainly, the biological drive to promote their own children probably takes effect, and they weren't exactly developed enough to have any idea. More mothers. Clytemnestra, from the Homeric sagas, who saw one of her daughters burned alive when she was deceived and told she would be married off to Achilles, and then her husband brought a Cassandra, as in Cassandra Truth, over there. Come on, no mention of the Wolf's Children. 10 out of 10, mom. You know what? She was right. She was a fantastic mother. Um, but I was keeping it with books. Not that I've seen Wolf Children. I need to see Wolf Children. Um, but that it's just not come across my paths. Let's see. Eastern mothers. Um, hmm. Yeah, a lot of disappeared mothers in this stuff. The wholesome one is Summer Wars, where you have an entire family. Also, Anthony, you can come on. I don't mind you coming on here. Let's see here. Really, the stepmom thing comes from being unconscionable to think that a mother could be evil to her own. That's true. The thing about mothers being evil to her own, it's usually less directed. It's a subtle thing rather than explicit, because by a lot, like a woman wouldn't really attack her own children or anything like that, but she would mace them up, cripple them up, based on things that she thinks is just for their own good. Funnily enough, one of my favorite manga of all time has like the weirdest finale, Blame, by Tsutomu Nihei, where it's actually like technically it's two mothers, but it's super like science fiction. So one gives up her genetic information that she had in her memory, combined with the command codes from another female character, to use the first one as a shell womb, using her power crystal for a womb for a human child, that the male protagonist has to then carry around. It's one of those things that takes like two or three readings to go like, oh. But Summer Wars had like mothers all over the place. They actually had like I don't know, Anthony. Like the Summer Wars, mothers and family and all that jazz. That's it's not the same focus as Wolf's Children, but it's pretty up there. He also mentions Deku's mom. Yes, you're absolutely right. Deku's mom is a treasure, but she doesn't. There's Bakugo's mom, who is, and it's one of those things where you know what, Bakugo's mom might be a bit better. I'm just looking through my various collections here to see what I got. Uh, okay. Evelyn from the Mummy movies. She was a pretty awesome mom, especially with a kid with all kinds of cursed destinies and issues with other mummies. uh, yeah, I like that movie. I need to re-see that. I need to transfer my Blu-ray into my DVD player on my laptop, but that's not important right now. Um, Other mothers. There's Summer Wars, Wolf Children, so many disappeared mothers, evil mothers. There's just so few good generic mothers running around. Uh, JoJo's mom dies falling off a cliff. Um, but then there's Arina and Lisa. Let's see how he says, "Be nice to Baku, mom. You see how well you do dealing with a little gremlin like Bakugo." No, I understand entirely. I was saying she's fantastic. She is, slide a drink over. But no, like thinking about anime moms running around. There is Lisa, Erina, um, and Jotaro Kujo's mom. Even though his dad doesn't show up the entire time, even though it's like, yeah, your wife's deathly ill. Are the boys on it? Yeah. The boys are trapping to Egypt to kill an ancient vampire who's hijacked Jotaro's great granddaddy's body. Uh, we'll take care of it. All right, and then he just keeps on his tour. It's like that. That's how he is. I'm pretty sure. Explains almost all of Jotaro's socialization problems. Um, Most of them, just most of them. Let's see here. Now there was a subtle mother in Biomega. Basically, she was the daughter of the head scientist, whose job was to delve into the sort of the dreamscape where these artificial humans were being made, and basically act as their mother and socialize them and raise them up how the Toha Corporation, heavy industries, wanted them to go, which was, I'm sure, very important because you don't want your superhumans to become sociopaths uh, or have mother issues that they just don't need. They just don't need mother issues, and I think that's an interesting idea in and of itself. You take you take a person, a real person, a socialized person who experienced the real world, and then put her into a digital world to train up people who are artificial humans. Because it's like you don't make an artificial human from a baby. I mean, you could, but like you do it. Debates of artificial. You sort of like graft the skin on top of the skeletal frame and create them to be more than what they could be just as humans. Um, it's very interesting to think of it like that. Personally, I need to put it in somewhere sometime, but I don't really have a good story for it right now. You know what I mean? If you don't have a good story for it, it's yeah, you're just not doing it. Let's see here. Other weirder mothers that we should remember. The mote in God's eye, alien species change from male to female, and if they change to female and don't get pregnant, they die. But then it leads to massive overpopulation problems. Let's see here. I'm thinking about, it's like dead. Like I'm going through all the things I've ever read, and it's like dead mother, disappeared, dead. I don't think I've had a living mother in any of my three stories that are ready for publication. Four, five. Yeah, that's weird. And I'm closer to my mother than I am my father. Mm, so it's like Sheik of Mars. The mother's sort of disappeared on both sides. I don't mention whether she's dead or not, just that she's not there, but she's dead. It's honestly easier to kill off a mom than have one be irresponsible. You're right. You were right. Also, the dad's kind of gone in Sheik of Mars, but he's kind of a hard ass, so whatever. In Tears of Elfland, she dies in childbirth with the seventh child, who is mischievous and possibly evil. In Jasper Silver, both the mother and father are murdered at the start of the story. Then we have in Jasper Silver 2, um, daughter of the Sheik of Mars. Uh, what was her name? What was I calling her? I can't remember. It doesn't matter. But the love interest mother is uh, dead, killed by assassins. Then we have, and she has a stepmother who's perfectly nice and normal and all that jazz. Let's see here. Amos Bellamy. I always find Killua's mom in Hunter x Hunter kind of hilarious. You're absolutely right. She was hilarious. A good example of a controlling mother. Um, except she's of course a very powerful assassin. So that sort of thing never ends well for people. Um, as it stands, let's see here. Controlling mothers. Now that's an interesting one. I don't have too many, interestingly enough. DramaCon, the third and honestly kind of the worst volume, had a controlling mother who didn't understand her daughter's desire to be an artist. Um, I think she has a heart attack. One of them does. And that's how they get back together. It's really kind of trite. DramaCon Volume 1 was the only one that was any kind of good. Um, Uzumaki had some uncaring stuff like that. What was this? Amos says Killua's mom was always moved to tears of joy and pride every time Killua assaulted her. Yeah, family assassins. That's how they roll. And so I assume that if he actually cut her, it's like, okay, we're gonna have a party for this. It's like what? Um, Spankings whenever he makes too much noise walking down the corridor. Uh, She's going to the bathroom, Ma. Everything's an assassination, son. Anyway, fairy tales. Um, Controlling. Interestingly, there's examples of evil controlling mothers to their own evil kids, usually involved witches, ogresses, etc., who have captured a prince for their ugly, ugly, pretty, ugly daughter. And so, of course, which leads to the good uh, pure and beautiful, etc. girl, um, having to break her out, usually with three objects that, like a pear or something, like a pear, an apple, and a lemon. And I'm not even joking about this. That carry a walnut. Excuse me. It's usually a walnut and then two other things, an apple, usually, most of the ones I've read, that break them open at your hour of direst need, and they have a sumptuous dress or shoes or something that she can trade to the ogress for various favors. It's kind of interesting. Let's see here. Barwin Studio says a lot of hilarity in HK cinema with those controlling tiger lady moms. They even show up in Wuxia flicks. You're right. I'm of the opinion that my best friend's wife will probably end up being a tiger mom. She has, I kind of like smell it on her character. Asians, of course. And it's like that old joke. An Asian parent walks into their kid's room and says, "Are you doctor now?" It's like, "No, Dad, I'm in fifth grade." "Oh, you talk to me when you doctor." And he walks out, which is about right. honestly, I've always cringed at the stories where it's like, yeah, he's 13 and he's working to be a doctor. I think this isn't healthy for the kid at all. And honestly, sort of controlling mothers is a thing that shows up just about everywhere, except in different ways. Like in uh, let's see, most of the Asian stuff I've seen that's not anime, obviously, that have tiger moms, they tend to be. It's like, why aren't you doing your best? And it's like, and then it's like poison your enemies for you or something. I don't know. But then with Western stuff, it always seems to be more babying them, keeping them around. You know what I mean? Just so, instead of pushing them to bring honor and glory to the family and live vicariously through them, it's more I'm gonna keep you nice and soft and near mommy, and everything's gonna be all right. Not that I'm saying that that's universal, but that's just the ones I've seen. Tend to take matters into their own hands more, usually with poison or a dagger, or just being Lady Macbeth. Lady Macbeth was not a mother, though I have seen versions where um, she is thought to be a mother. Like in the one with that was most recent, that I cannot remember who was in it for the life of me. The Lady Macbeth was the worst part of it. But the best part of it was like the main characters and stuff like that. And actually, I can look this up because it's important. Because I don't mean, one of these other ones. Macbeth. I'm just looking for. Then you have the classic hot moms. Lord help the shonen protagonist who dares to introduce his best male friends to her. Oh yeah, I don't want to talk about that too much, but there's all types of very funny, very bad sort of things. It's like, it shows up and it's like, how old are you? 40? And it's like got that 800-year-old lolly look. I've seen that at least once. It's like, come on, man, it's 800 years old. Stop it. Mark Raleigh. No, I don't think this is the one. It's the one before this one. Michael Fassbender. There we go. Michael Fassbender's Macbeth. Um, in that one, they actually had. I'm gonna link that one to you. It's actually pretty decent. Um, except that they mess up the out damn spot, where basically his kids die. Um, with in the battle as and like in disease and stuff like that. So that's what sort of makes Lady Macbeth start go crazy and other things like that, which I don't really agree with per se, but it was a really great production overall. Especially since Michael Fassbender is pretty good at the sort of medieval hero. Um, so he's got to check the tags on that page. Ugly bastard, Netarare. Elf. It's like, oh no. Oh no. Anyway. Um, it's I've seen a whole bunch of funny memes about that stuff, and it's one of those things you just don't want to delve too deep into it because that's just a pit you're never going to get out of. No matter what you try to do. Redwall has a great bunch of mothers in them, uh, but a lot of them are just dead. And it usually starts the protagonist's story. Um, let's see, Cornflower. She was pretty awesome. She wasn't a military genius or anything ridiculous like that from the first book. But in Matameo and in Redwall, she usually has the gumption in her to take the fight where she can. Not that she can fight really, because she is like a mouse, which is F tier on combat um, generally. Uh, let's see here. Bella Brockhall, though she didn't get to be his mother as long as she probably wanted to be. Um, that's a horrible way to say it. And the Tagarong, which was the last good Redwall book. Um, Real Flag's wife. I cannot remember her for the life of me. Real Flag died. Her kit is taken away, and she sort of has to raise it on her own. It's one of those sad sort of raise her daughter on her own. It's kind of sad, but um, she really does her best. Let's see here. Sorry, I'm just looking for something real quick. Honestly, there's quite a few. Let's see here. There's quite a few ways you can kind of do the mother sort of thing going on. Um, but it's one of those things where you just kind of have to decide what you want out of it, especially if you want to write something. Um, with a bit of spice to it, a bit of flair. For example, let's say that I write a story and I want to keep both parents alive, or at least I don't want to have them dead as backstory for once. um, what I could do, let's say that I'm working on a science fiction space opera type adventure, it'd be pretty simple. Like I'd have the roguish son, the stolid captain father, and the mother who's the cook. It's not really a hard development to really to put out there. So you can have reasons for the son to interact both with his father and with his mother, and it can happen in a fairly organic way without interfering it. For one thing, if his dad's the captain, he still has to talk to the captain to get things done and get permission to leave and all that jazz. Excuse me. And if it's his mother in the cooking bit, uh, he it gives him an excuse to talk to her as well, since she's doling out the food. And it also opens up romantic prospects with um, like side cooks and helpers and dishwashers and stuff like that. Some cute girl working with the mother. Um, for a more fantasy approach, what you can do is simply have the character alive. Let's say that he goes off to fight a war. And then you could have communication between him and his mother, describing his mental state and what he's working on as he wanders around town. Or, the civilization has to break out and head back home. Any number of things. Any number of things. Like it's one of those things that's definitely more limited by your imagination than it is by, say, the living of um, of your character's mother. Let's see. Hold on a second. Share. And, honestly, I don't see why a lot of this stuff, shouldn't. There we go. Nope, never mind. Maybe I'll find it. There it is. And, there's, you can also do it if you want to burn down the hometown. The mother's still running around, except she's like in the refugee center or whatever they have. The band of misfits in the woods, that sort of thing. They actually did that in Lord Brocktree, part of the Redwall series, where the mother's the cook for the band, um, which I thought was actually pretty good. Uh, she was a weepy sort, and you can have weepy mothers sometimes. It's if everyone's strong, it's not very interesting. Um, Having somebody who'll just like cry at the drop of the hat is like, ooh, you're adorable, which is mostly what her son thought of her. It's like, mama's crying. Oh no. One of the things that sort of gets me about like a bunch of anime uh, that should kind of have mothers running around is things like Sword Art Online and other stuff. It's like, yes, all these horrible things are happening around us. What about the parents? They don't care. I know that he's trapped in a video game where if you die in the game, you die for real life. Oh, I know that that's such a oh my goodness. I know that's such a hard thing, to think about. Honey, I know we're traipsing about Europe, but our son seems to be trapped in a killer video game. Oh, he'll be all right. 10,000 people have already died. It'll work out. I'll try and hit 6 o'clock. We never really get much on Conan the Barbarian's mother, or Solomon Kane's, or let's see here. There's actually a lot of like just disappeared mothers all over literature, and I could go on. I think just looking through what I have here, um, the mother of the protagonist of the Nightlands is never mentioned. Neither is his father. Wake of the Nightlands. It's the same. Never sort of mentioned. Though I consider, yeah, yeah, just never mentioned. They're not characters, and that's fine. Honestly, adding them in would have slowed down the story plot line speed quite a bit. Gorman Gost has a mother in it, Titus Grown, Mervyn Peak series, but she's kind of poor at it. And even though she does seem to love her children, um, she is ultimately unable to, like the rest of them, defend herself from Steerpike, uh, which is normal for this story, though. Hmm. One of the things I'm sort of looking into to work on is a sort of horror fantasy thing with witchcraft and wizardry, except in the proper horror aspect of it, rather than the soft, oh boy, let's, learn magic and the consorting of demons. Oh yes, that'll be useful for us. And actually have it lead to horror and death and all that jazz. Because then you could start off showing the obviously those things start at a high point and then they start decreasing downward all the time. So, in other words, you could start it off with having um, their mother, be super nice and wonderful and all that jazz. And then you have the stepmother, who's, of course, completely evil. Not the witch herself. I actually have an idea where it's like the man's a warlock. Both parents are dead from poison. And it's all, of course, very much a plan, a plot, even dastardly plot by the antagonist to take over their land and magic circle and all that jazz. Sorry, I just have to respond to people who are sad they can't make it. I'm sad you can't make it too, but that's okay. I'm here and I can ramble forever. Um, what are we talking about? So yeah, and like one of the things I've noticed that isn't really done as often as I think it should is favoritism. Like there's favoritism for their own kid, but what if they don't have any kids? You see, or if what if they just like one of the characters more? I've seen that in fairy tales and a few other things, and in this case, because the warlock dad has plans to sacrifice one of the kids, she's the favored one. And the son in the story I'm working on, not this is my main project at all. Like I've got a big mind. Got a lot of stories kicking around. I need to focus on cyber gothic, but I'm scared. Ugh. What do you do with motherhood and fatherhood in a race of immortals? You just kind of leave them alone after 20. What are you doing, son? I'm like 55 million light years away on the opposite end of the ultimate, building a mega structure of civilization where all matter um, has been turned to the usefulness of man. And it's like, what do I do then? Happy Mother's Day, Ma. Son, you've missed 55 million Mother's Day. Ma, I'm 55 million light years away. Like we still haven't figured out faster than light travel. Like letters are going to take as long as they take. Well, you should send them so that they hit every year. I'm just going to send you an email, Ma. You don't love me. You can never see me. That's how it rolls. Well, let's see here. Favoritism. You could often like examine it and really, pull out evil with some really good favoritism. Just sort of apply a little bit of pressure on one or two of the characters to have them explode on the opposite end. And Sort of create new dynamics, I guess I want to say. You see, like I'm not one of those guys who like writes a story and expects all the characters to work in the way I expect them to work. I have things I want to see out of them, but then I sort of work backwards from what I want to see to what will bring me there. You can't just have things arbitrarily happen. Evil happens for a reason and it has goals. Therefore, we should figure out and work towards whatever goals and evil and stuff like that evil favors. Uh, you know, Satan has a plan. We should have a plan too. Um, so in that case, like create like people cruel people, especially cruel mothers, know instinctively, it seems like, how to get what they actually want out of their kids over time. And it's sort of frightening and sad and all that good stuff to see that in real life. But if it's done really well in literature, ooh, that's good. But it's also uncomfortable. We don't want to think of our mothers as being capable of that cruelty, like Bar One Studios mentioned earlier. Uh, But you know what? That's how it happens. That's how it's done. Uh, Not that, being superversive, I'm not down on things for down on things' sake, but sometimes your villain has to be villainous. Your your evil has to be despicable and wicked, and all that good stuff. And if it's not despicable and wicked, I don't know what's the point of having evil then. Unless it's like just that super subtle evil, which is evil, but it's also like evil that if anybody would just pick up their sword and run the rat bastard through, it would just solve everyone's problems. Like when you have enough blackmail on everyone, and everyone knows they're being blackmailed or has an idea about it, like people, like it's always kind of bothered me. It's like with Peter and stuff, Littlefinger and stuff like that. It's like just run your sword through him. He's got so much blackmail on everyone. No one's going to come after you for it. Because it's like secretly they're relieved that they no longer have to pay the piper. Um, Cersei, evil mother, caused two of her kids to die. One of them explicitly committed suicide. Um, in a, funnily enough, mimic of what they did to Bran earlier in the show. And it's a show now, I guess. Any other crazy, like there's one that's crazy. There's the southern end of the island. I want to call them like Dorset or something. The southern end of the island has a mother with a bunch of daughters who get killed off one by one, mostly by Cersei. Uh, there's Ned's wife, who's a mother, um, but she's kind of just not good at it, really. Doesn't know how to promote goodness within her kids. Um, but that fits the story, honestly. There's a single mother roaming around that attaches herself to that fat one. But I don't think that goes anywhere. Shows. Let's see here. Thinking about shows. There's the mother of Stranger Things, who's actually really good. Um, Stranger Things season two was just kind of yuck, but season one and the mother in season one was actually pretty dang good. Um, let's see here. There was also the mother of the main character who was very very kind of not neglectful, but she didn't care all that much. She was very self involved, kind of selfish. Um, let's see here. I don't watch enough shows and media like that, honestly, to really go into it more. Let's see here. There's Marge Simpson, who's better than some. Uh, Lois from The Family Guy, who's quite frankly evil and psychotic. They had an entire episode about how empty her life was. She kicked out everyone and everything that ever took care of it. Season two of Stranger Things was not good. By J.D. Cohen. Yep, you are absolutely right. They introduced characters that didn't need to be introduced, um, and the pacing just felt so weird in the first two episodes or so that I watched. Like I'm not one of those guys who just like becomes a fan of something. I'm a fan of John C. Wright, but that's because his stuff is the bomb. But if it ever isn't the bomb, I'm not going to follow him anymore. Like it's not hard for me to just sort of break from that. Like I don't really understand people like so we have a binge watch culture, right? So they binge watch something. They watch through it the whole thing in a couple days, and then it's like I'm such a fan, and it's like I don't think like you can't even name the director. Like you just know what the guy's done just because he's got a few more slots on the Netflix show. Because he's got blackmail material or he's friends with the right degenerate. Um, and that's like not inaccurate at all. Like there's a bunch of corruption. I recently heard about the guy who did Ren and Stimpy, who is certainly a pedophile, and he he knew the right people, and it was an open secret that he was a pedophile, and he had images and stuff on his computer and so on and so forth. But nobody cared. But then again, with the revelations of Harvey Weinstein, Dan Schneider, and all those other guys, um, not so surprising. Wouldn't be surprised if they all went to the same Eyes Wide Shut parties. You know what I mean? Uh, and it's like some of these girls, like I gotta ask where their mothers were. Yeah, I'm gonna go across the country to be with this guy. No, like, yeah, he's an animator. It's going to be great. I'm going to learn the industry. How old are you again? 15. No. I'm going to be on the show where I won't have any privacy. And, Dan Schneider um, adds all kind of weird things about people's feet in just about everything he does. Yeah, funny. That sounds great. I'm so happy you're in show business. And of course, they have no idea what's actually good for their children. They only know what the world tells them is good for their children, and it's like what you're gonna do. Back in the day, no respectful, self-respecting mother or father or family or anything like that would have let their kids get into show business at all. Like it was well known that you just pay the price. Fatty Bolger killed somebody. Raped an actress to death. Virginia Rapp, like it's like so covered it up, disappeared, but it showed up in places. We know enough about it to know what he did, when and where, and all that jazz. Did she was she separated from her mother? Did her mother not care? Um, and I think that we've only just begun to see the payment of it. I saw a tweet. It's like, yeah, shout out to all the black, not just the white ones, the blacks, the Asians, and so on and so forth. And then it goes to the trans mothers, to the cat mothers, to the adopted mothers, to the abortion mothers. Uh, uh, um, and it's like, yep, we haven't scraped the bottom of the barrel yet, and motherhood's gone under, and X and Y have happened, and it's all just so topsy turvy, which probably isn't something anything's going to get dealt with soon. Anyway, I've talked for nearly an hour, and I'm actually quite tired. I'm gonna rest up and relax and go to bed early, probably. I want to wish you all a great night. I never got to Twitter mobs. I'm sorry. I'm gonna save that for next week, probably. Probably. Probably.